So lovely, good evening and welcome to Camnet TV Main News. To present, my name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Top stories in the news. President Hakainde Hichilema condemned for calling previous governments a clique of thieves. Two houses gutted due to suspected electrical fault in Lusaka. President HH calls for unity. In international news, Mali political parties demand junta respect transition schedule. And in sports, OLUNGA, BOUNEDJAH and AYEW, the African trio dominating the QATARI League.
Africa is rising to a new dawn of integrity and accountability. Are you tired of being swindled or buying fake or illegal properties? Would you like to sell or buy genuine property? Would you like to list your property on both local and international market? Don't waste your time. Call the professionals, the SGK Properties on +260 762 166 018. SGK Properties. Your business assurance is our priority.
Hello once again, another news in detail. Two houses in Lusaka's Libala area Saturday night were gutted by fire, destroying property worth thousands of kwacha. The incident, which happened around 17 hours, was noticed by neighbors to the victims' houses 10 minutes after power was restored after a power cut. According to their explanation, power has been cutting without notice from the power utility company ZESCO. Meanwhile, the firefighters who rushed to the scene managed to quench the fire before it could spread to other houses in the same yard. More in this report.
2021 can be described as the start of electricity challenges in most parts of the country after a heavy downpour that left many structures destroyed, among them electric poles and billboards. For the past 4 days, the country has experienced unprecedented power cuts as ZESCO, the power utility company, announced its black start, which, according to them, was meant to pave way for investigations at the company. The untimely power cuts have allegedly burnt down a block of 2 flats in Lusaka's Libala area, leaving nothing to chance. Neighbors tell Camnet TV that the fire started around 19 hours, 10 minutes after power was restored.
1 hour ya boila 1 hour yaenda so nenza nkezi na maboys bankapanja tinkala namuza tikashe mbaula kuseri aenda kwende ya shambaula aboila after cha shambaula malaiti ya boila so I was like okay isi yasha TV ka testazimi ya boss yasha TV so kwa mimi tange na mnyumba naendera vintu vinuka na iyo mwana mbaula ikaribu yakati ya isi yake namuza tutoka panja enda kuseri uzunguruko ukushtemani uone atoka panja nuza tukulipa natoka panja kusembera ndepa mina wana muliro uchoka pamoja ndepa mina tokusaba na wanga mnyumba nati wana mnyumba uko yapi na wapunjia naba na mnyumba yapi atosani moto kadapelekana wana laswena bwela yaenda ngepeteza ona moto kunanga ni nyumba ya chani yaka it's like ZESCO 40 kapeleza after yaenda the whole day, and we've been experiencing this kind of situation for more than 3 days.
Another resident of the same area is worried that the situation, if left unchecked, may lead to loss of lives.
After the power was restored, we had, just after 10 minutes, my neighbor here, I just heard her shouting, "Nyumba yapya, nyumba yapya." So we don't even know what really transpired because the fire was coming from the top of the roof. So we don't know if it's ZESCO or if it's the neighbors that left things open. We don't know. Yeah. Motoka nina patina. So wanita tosani motoka tosani. Jamana tosela motoka na paka punch. Because you know motoka na muliro ni maspark. So independent and partner.
Meanwhile, the fire was quenched 40 minutes later and no life was lost in the process.
But we start to meet fire brigades. So when they come to Munjira, we starting to almost 30 minutes for them to reach here. By the time they were reaching, the house was gutted and the property was already down. So even if they have put off the power,
Sharon Kalimbola, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Residents of Mtendere compound in Lusaka have called on the Zambia Police Service to take an aggressive stance towards combating community gangs locally known as junkies, stating that criminal activities have been on the rise in the area. In separate interviews with Camnet News, the residents state that they are not being helped by police in the area, who have been citing low staffing levels and inadequate police vehicles to conduct patrols at night. Recently, Police Inspector General Lemi Kajoba directed police to curb criminal gangs which have mushroomed in Lusaka. More in this report.
Many communities in Lusaka are packed with a high number of youths, and majority of them do not engage in any economic activity, mostly due to the lack of capital to start up businesses. This has led to an increase in crime levels around communities, as these youths spend their days engaging in drug and alcohol abuse and tend to robbing citizens at night. For a long time now, residents of various compounds such as Kanyama, Misisi, Chibolya and Mutendere in Lusaka have been terrorized by the criminal gangs who are locally known as junkies. Inspector General of Police Mr. Lemi Kajoba recently indicated an increase in the criminal gangs and directed police to curb the said criminal activities. However, residents of Mutendere compound say they are not being helped by the police in the area, who cite lack of manpower and inadequate police vehicles.
We've got a lot of unruly youths called the junks in Mutendere there. Junks are about 100 meters away from the police station, but we don't seem to be getting enough help that we need. Because these chaps, they attack people at any time, and the police are not doing anything about it. So maybe if a neighborhood watch can be formed and part of the money to be channeled to neighborhood watch so that they can help the police in terms of security, so that they can combat the issues of junks in Mtendere. We also need street lighting in Mtendere. There are times when there's no ZESCO power, so we need the street lights which are powered by solar to be put up in certain roads which are of great importance.
The residents say one of the solutions is to build more police posts around crime-prone communities and ensure that these are adequately staffed and equipped.
Majanki like Mtendere East Kalikiliki, wativuta maningi. We would love as a government tandizeko according to the budget yanachoka, like pama police ya tuma stations webe mamotoka duty vehicles, at least wakazienda on patrol na mamotoka. It would really help.
Stakeholders have been calling for empowerment of these youths, saying it is only when youth engage in productive activities that crime levels will significantly reduce. Zipora Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Former United Party for National Development, Monze Urban Councillor Wumba Pandwe, has survived an attack by suspected UPND cadres that has left him with a deep wound on the forehead. Mr. Pandwe, who defected to the Patriotic Front towards the August general elections campaign, has told Camnet News that the brutal beating started after a UPND cadre security officer, Kelvin Conhill, insulted him and called him stupid for defecting to the PF. Mr. Pandwe says two other cadres joined in the beating and that he was only rescued by his two elder brothers, who were called by some frightened onlookers. According to Article 21 of the Constitution of Zambia, it states that, except with his own consent, a person shall not be hindered in the enjoyment of his freedom of assembly and association, that is to say, his rights to assemble freely and associate with other persons, and in particular, to form or belong to any political party, trade union, or other association for the protection of his interests. By broadcast time, police had not yet received information over the incident.
It all started when Kelvin Kajima Conhill followed me. I was in the company of two other friends. He greeted us, and then just after greeting me, he started to use unpalatable, started to shout on top of his voice, saying, I'm very stupid, having defected from UPND to PF. That was in April. So as I was trying to engage him to say, I think it was wrong for him to shout. Tululu Kigali and Muliranduba pulled me or pushed me, saying I should not be talking to their commander as they had put it. So I was trying to engage them to say I did not follow them or was not talking to them. I started receiving punches, and then other cadres joined in saying no, do Pusa, do PF and everything. So I said, but I don't think that was right for them to start attacking me, whether I supported PF in the past elections. So that is how the 4 or 5 others descended on me and beat me down.
Opposition Green Party President Peter Sinkamba has fully endorsed the decentralization approach taken by the United Party for National Development Administration beginning 2022. Mr. Sinkamba explains that it is the sure way to achieve inclusive development. Mr. Sinkamba has, however, expressed concern over the implementation and transparency of the decentralization policy, especially with the remarks passed by the head of state upon arrival from Glasgow. The opposition leader notes that the statement relating to a clique of thieves questions how the UPND will manage the resources of this country. He adds that such statements imply that anybody who has benefited from public resources, even for educational, health, or indeed social security purposes, right from independence up to now, belongs to a clique of thieves. Patriots for Economic Progress PEP President Sean Tembo has given Republican President Hakainde Hichilema a 7-day ultimatum to withdraw an alleged statement on Saturday that a clique of thieves have been running Zambia since independence. President Hichilema made these statements at Kenneth Kaunda International Airport when responding to questions from journalists shortly after his arrival from a climate change summit in Scotland. The PEP president says the party will approach the Constitutional Court of Zambia for a declaration of President Hichilema's statement as divisive should it not be withdrawn within the stipulated period. More in this report.
Different views have risen from stakeholders over President Hakainde Hichilema's statement made on Saturday upon his arrival from a climate change summit in Scotland. In responding to questions from the media, the head of state said the new administration is keen on ensuring that the country's public resources benefit citizens.
Who did not want this country to be run by anyone else other than a clique of thieves like them. And I call them a clique of thieves because they've been feeding off public resources from independence. And I don't think that someone else, other people can run a country in a better way to redistribute jobs, to redistribute resources. This is what a colossal mind does.
Patriots for Economic Progress PEP President Mr. Sean Tembo has described the statement as regrettable, saying it is demeaning to previous Republican presidents. He says the party is therefore demanding for the statement to be withdrawn and an apology rendered within 7 days, failure to which the party will approach the Constitutional Court for the statement to be declared as divisive.
The statement by President Hichilema was referring basically to Presidents Kaunda, Chiruva, Mwanawasa, Banda, Sata, as well as Lungu. And we feel that such a statement was not in order because it was belittling to the former heads of state. And on that basis, we have decided to issue an ultimatum to the Republican president for him to withdraw his statement within 7 days. Failure to which we shall be compelled to approach the Constitutional Court of Zambia to seek a declaration that the president's statement is unconstitutional as it is divisive to this nation.
However, presidential spokesperson Mr. Anthony Bwalya in a statement has clarified on the matter, saying it was taken out of context. The presidential spokesperson explains that the head of state was referring to the new administration's commitment in the decentralization process to avoid bureaucracy which leaves room for corruption so as to ensure that citizens benefit from the country's natural resources at the grassroots level. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
President Hakainde Hichilema says the contribution of former leaders and fallen heroes should never be forgotten as they are an important part of Zambia's history. Speaking when he graced the Samu Liamomba annual event in Wengwa, Monze of Southern Province, the president notes that the site of Samu Liamomba is key to Zambia's independence. The head of state notes that the fight for independence was won due to unity of purpose by the freedom fighters, calling on all Zambians to remember this. He says his administration is committed to ensuring unity is upheld in all the 10 provinces. Mr. Hichilema says the UPND will unlock the challenges being faced by the majority Zambians when their budget is implemented in 2022. The president says the new Dawn government is realigning resources to intended beneficiaries for all to benefit. Police in Lusaka have gunned down 3 criminals in Matero's Lilanda area suspected to have been planning to stage aggravated robberies. Speaking when he displayed a motor vehicle and an AK-47 rifle recovered from the operation at Lusaka Central Police Sunday morning, police spokesperson Ray Hamonga says 2 of the criminals are on the run. Mr. Hamonga says after receiving information from the public that criminals wanted to stage a robbery, the police rushed to the scene where there was a heavy exchange of gunfire. The police spokesperson has since asked members of the general public that might be missing their relatives to come and identify those gunned down at UTH mortuary where the bodies have been deposited awaiting identification.
We'd like to confirm that yesterday, as police, Uganda, that some criminal quick action down. Mostly, we arrived in Uganda, where we found the criminals, we confronted them. Unfortunately, they opened fire at our officers. Our officers retaliated. We managed to die We covered this motor, the AK-47 rifle, 400 ammunition. Now we just want to send a very strong warning to the criminals. They are just coming from an amnesty. We are requesting to surrender these illegal firearms. Unfortunately, the reports that we are getting so far are not so encouraging. Very few people surrender these illegal firearms. And going forward now, the police have stepped up our operations.
You're watching Camnet TV and not just another channel. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
This is the Rusitu Irrigation Project. It's a government project funded by the World Bank through IDSP.
The project involved laying over 18 kilometers worth of interlinked water pipes that will supply water to the 280 hectares land for small-scale and commercial farmers in Lusitu of Chirundu district. We worked on 35 kilometers of the road network and also constructed 159 concrete water hydrants of different sizes in all 3 tiers. The state-of-the-art water pumping station at the banks of the Zambezi is fitted with 9 water pumps, a dedicated concrete reservoir, a 500 kV automated standby generator, a fully automated pump switching system that is interlinked with a second reservoir of 27,000 cubic liters capacity, which is fitted with 7 water pumps, a standby generator and floater tanks for that extra water pressure on the irrigation lines. Savenda Construction is grateful to the Zambian government and the World Bank for giving us the opportunity to be part of the history of Lusitu, as the project will benefit over 282 households once completed and is just one of the many that Savenda Construction has embarked on, owing to its track record and capacity to deliver as per requirement. Savenda, save nations, develop Africa.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
Africa is rising to a new dawn of integrity and accountability. Are you tired of being swindled or buying fake or illegal properties? Would you like to sell or buy genuine property? Would you like to list your property on both local and international market? Don't waste your time. Call the professionals, the SGK Properties, on +260 762 166 018. SGK Properties. Your business assurance is our priority.
Welcome back. We continue with the news. A non-governmental organization has called on government to constitute a team of structural engineers to conduct a structural audit of key public infrastructure to ensure that it is able to withstand the harsh weather conditions the country has been experiencing in the recent years. In an interview, Synalytics Zambia Director of Communications Mwala Kalaluka states that climate change has negatively affected the country and made it prone to disasters such as floods, and which has also seen houses getting damaged from the same. He adds that an audit of key public infrastructure will go a long way in safeguarding the lives of citizens and avoiding catastrophes. More in this report.
The impact of climate change has been great on many countries, Zambia included, as it has led to an increase in natural disasters. The country in the recent years has experienced flash floods, which have led to the destruction of people's homes and in some cases the loss of lives and property. Synalytics Zambia, a non-governmental organization, says there is need to conduct a structural audit of key public infrastructure in the face of climate change to avoid catastrophes. Organization Director of Communications Mr. Mwala Kalaluka says this audit will ascertain the quality of the country's infrastructure, which will also help in ensuring that corrective measures are put in place where necessary, as this infrastructure was built at a high cost.
We are calling on the government to immediately constitute a team of structural engineers and quantity surveyors to be able to take a structural audit of all the infrastructure that has been built or erected in recent years. We are saying this because we've seen houses collapsing, a number of key infrastructure collapsing. And also we've seen that some of the infrastructure that was constructed to decongest the LUSAKA city, for example, most of it has been flooded, or there are floods on the roads.
Meanwhile, Organization Program Coordinator Mr. Eddie Lilwai has also added his voice.
During the rainy season as well, we expect to have high volumes of precipitation. So in that case, what we expect from civil engineers and structural engineers is that the infrastructure that is being set up, put up nowadays, we expect it to be able to withstand such harsh conditions. The roads, for instance, must be designed in such a way that when we anticipate flash floods, there is a mechanism that is provided in the construction of those roads so that we don't have so much damage done to our roads that
Climate change indicators show that unless aggressive action is taken, climate change will only continue to worsen in the coming years. Zipporah Mushala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Zambia Federation of Employers ZFE Executive Director Mr. Harrington Chiwanda has appealed to workers to avoid creating labor disharmony. Mr. Chiwanda says the Federation has noticed an increase in uprisings from workers demanding higher pay following the change of government. In an interview, Mr. Chiwanda states that after the change of administration, many workers across the country have taken to downing tools, demanding better pay even when they are being paid the minimum wage as required by the country's labor laws. He has called on workers to take the right channels when advocating for better pay, stating that the downing of tools has a negative effect on many economic activities.
What is pertaining as minimum wages are actually a legal position. And much as I know that there are some companies out there who are paying way above the minimum wage, there are some who have decided to pay exactly the minimum wage. So that in its own is not a violation of any worker's right. Those employers are simply following the law. that we have put in place. But of course, I should mention here that there is an agreed position by the social partners that minimum wages should always be reviewed after every 2 years. But you know, we are coming from a situation where we've been hit by COVID-19, and this is why we couldn't discuss any upward adjustments on the minimum wages. So should the situation remain stable, that the COVID-19 become a thing of the past, and that employers, businesses start doing well, obviously it will only be fair that our social partners will meet and discuss the possibility of increasing the minimum wage, given that the cost of living has increased in the past 2 years.
The Ministry of Health says tuberculosis in Zambia affects about 400 children, mainly in the age group of 0 to 4 years, and is responsible for 3% of deaths. Speaking in an interview with Camnet News, National TB and Leprosy Program Manager Dr. Patrick Lungu says TB in children is very catastrophic as it causes persistent cough, fevers, loss of appetite and body weight, reduced playfulness, as well as the swelling of legs and abdomen. Dr. Lungu dismissed allegations that children who have TB are HIV positive, but says TB is an airborne disease and can be contracted by children in the same way they contract a cough. And mother to a 6-year-old girl diagnosed with TB says she never believed that her child could have TB, as none of her family members has suffered from TB before. More in the following report.
Tuberculosis, also known as TB, is a potentially serious infectious bacterial disease that mainly affects the lungs. While there are myths and misconceptions surrounding TB, such as TB can only be found in elderly persons or HIV and AIDS patients, TB, on the other hand, can affect anyone, including children from the age of 0, as it is an airborne disease. I spoke to a mother of Kanyama compound whose 6-year-old daughter was diagnosed with TB some years ago without any member of her family suffering from TB. The mother has, however, explained how TB medication has helped save her daughter's life. Meanwhile, Ministry of Health National TB and Leprosy Programs Manager Dr. Patrick Lungu says over 400 children in Zambia suffer from TB and that the number can be more, considering that most parents do not realize that their children have TB due to misconceptions.
So TB in children can go to the brain and impair the cognitive function of that child. So what that means that a child who has suffered from TB and TB is detected late, if not treated late, this child will not be able to learn easily in class, will not be able to do any meaningful economic activities thereafter. One of the other consequences of TB is that it can also lead to a child starting to fit.
Dr. Lungu says TB in children can be prevented if medication is administered on time and that a child can live a normal life.
These issues that I've mentioned can be prevented, can be avoided by just being aware of TB and for the public seeking care whenever they have TB much early. When a child comes in contact with an adult or a fellow child who has TB, they can easily get it. If you look at how easily children get flus,
For the mother of a 6-year-old, she has advised women not to be reluctant about TB, but take a step and seek medical attention. Having TB does not mean a person or a child has an underlying condition. The public then ought to know that TB can affect both children and adults, as it is an airborne disease. However, its consequences can be lethal if not treated on time. The best way then to fight TB is for one to seek medical attention whenever symptomatic. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
ZANACO Head of Research and Economics, Dr. Patrick Chileshe, says while the 2022 national budget is ambitious, the budget will have a challenge in revenue mobilization in that a lot of concessions have been given to business houses. Dr. Chileshe says the tax concessions will amount to a loss of over 4 billion kwacha, while revenue measures are only resulting in about 392 million kwacha, causing a huge gap. Dr. Chileshe says the gap will need to be filled by expanding the tax base to ensure that sectors that have not been contributing to the revenue bucket, such as small and medium enterprises, begin to do so. Meanwhile, Chief Government Spokesperson Chu Shikasanda says government always has a plan of ensuring that the gap in revenue generation is covered. More in the following report.
74 billion kwacha 2022 national budget presented to Parliament by Minister of Finance Tumiko Msokotwane has continued to attract reactions from different sectors of society. While government has proposed that it will borrow 24.5 billion kwacha in domestic debt to finance the budget, the revenue measures announced by the government, on the other hand, among them the deductibility of mineral royalties for corporate income tax, assessment purposes and others, will result in losses in revenue of over 5 billion kwacha. However, ZANACO Head of Research and Economics Dr. Patrick Chileshe says the tax concessions will cause a huge gap in the budget financing, which will require the Zambia Revenue Authority to enhance its revenue mobilization strategy.
173 billion kwacha is a tall order to raise in this economy. The Minister of Finance has given a number of concessions which are amounting to over 4 billion kwacha, whereas measures that will help to bring in new resources only stand at around 392 million kwacha. So we need to see a Zambia Revenue Authority that is going to work extremely hard to expand the tax base to ensure that the private sector is able to contribute more, and more important, those sectors which haven't been contributing much to the revenue basket in this country, especially the SMEs.
But in response, the chief government spokesperson Chu Shikasanda says the government will always find a way of balancing figures whenever concessions are given.
Government cannot introduce taxes that they will not be able to manage. Such taxes we always ensure that they have a balance. If you take from the other hand, be assured that the other hand has something to cushion the other hand.
Dr. Chileshe, on the other hand, says the budget speaks to the growth of the 3% the Minister of Finance announced in his budget.
In our view, the budget measures that have been proposed, or the sectors of focus, really speak to the growth of over 3.5% that the Minister is proposing. We have measures in the mining sector which have included removing, making the mineral royalty tax deductible. We have a number of measures that are proposed in the agriculture sector. The Minister is looking at ensuring that the agriculture sector becomes more productive.
While those in the opposition have criticized the budget and called it a hoax, the country awaits to see how its implementation will unfold. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
This is Camnet TV Main News. We'll take a break. We'll be back with international and sports news.
Team, the trajectory of the business looks very positive, and it looks like we'll be able to launch the ministry. Has so much data.
Mom.
Yes, baby.
It says here, global warming and climate change is caused by the pollution from careless activities of human beings.
Wow! Son, do you know I can turn my phone into a TV remote?
How's that possible?
It's so easy. Check this out.
Be smart, be fast with mega data from Zamtel. Get your 15 GB mobile data for only 100 kwacha, 30 GB mobile data for only 200 kwacha, and your 70 GB LTE data bundle with free Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Visit our Facebook page, website, or service centers countrywide for more information. Zamtel, your digital lifestyle partner.
This is the Rusitu irrigation project. It's a government project funded by the World Bank through IDSP.
The project involved laying over 18 kilometers worth of interlinked water pipes that will supply water to the 280 hectares land for small-scale and commercial farmers in Lusitu of Chirundu district. We worked on 35 kilometers of the road network and also constructed 159 concrete water hydrants of different sizes in all 3 tiers. The state-of-the-art water pumping station at the banks of the Zambezi is fitted with 9 water pumps, a dedicated concrete reservoir, a 500 kV automated standby generator, a fully automated pump switching system that is interlinked with a second reservoir of 27,000 cubic liters capacity, which is fitted with 7 water pumps, a standby generator, and floater tanks for that extra water pressure on the irrigation lines. Savenda Construction is grateful to the Zambian government and the World Bank for giving us the opportunity to be part of the history of Lusitu, as the project will benefit over 282 households once completed, and is just one of the many that Savenda Construction has embarked on, owing to its track record and capacity to deliver as per requirement. Savenda, save nations, develop Africa.
Africa is rising to a new dawn of integrity and accountability. Are you tired of being swindled or buying fake or illegal properties? Would you like to sell or buy genuine property? Would you like to list your property on both local and international market? Don't waste your time. Call the professionals, the SGK Properties, on +260 762 166 018. SGK Properties. Your business assurance is our priority.
Welcome back. And in international news, a coalition of political parties sat in Bamako Saturday to demand the country's junta organize elections next year. Mali's army rulers have been accused of dragging their feet on the transition calendar, which prescribes a return to civilian rule by February 2022. Meanwhile, protests are underway for a second day in cities around the world as part of a global mobilization against what campaigners say is a lack of urgency to address global warming at a Crunch United Nations Climate Summit in Glasgow, Scotland. From Paris to Sydney, Nairobi to Seoul, more than 200 events are planned worldwide on Saturday to demand immediate action for communities already affected by climate change, particularly in the poorer countries in the south.
A coalition of political parties sat in Bamako Saturday to demand the country's junta organize elections next year. Mali's army rulers have been accused of dragging their feet on the transition calendar, which prescribes a return to civilian rule by February 2022. We, the political parties and groupings of political parties of the Framework for a Successful Transition in Mali, no longer understand the totally contradictory logic of the government, which endangers the evolution of the transition and relations with our partners concerning the electoral timetable and reforms. In recent weeks, UN and ECOWAS delegations have been to Bamako in a bid to pressurize the authorities to move towards organizing elections. For us, we see no organization in the elections for the moment. For the moment, absolutely nothing has been done to this end. In case of prolongation of the transition without a consensual debate with all the sons of this country, we have legal means that are guaranteed to us by the Malian constitution. We will very soon also invade the Boulevard of Independence to make ourselves heard. Mali's transition was rocked by a May coup in which junta leader Colonel Assimi Goïta overthrew the interim administration in which he served as vice president. West African leaders are meeting on Sunday with Mali and Guinea top of the agenda.
A mass expression of alarm from cities on every continent. Demonstrators from all walks of life calling for immediate action, not just promises in the crisis over climate control. All over the world, there's outrage that in the past, so many pledges to cut emissions and provide funding to create clean alternatives to fossil fuels haven't been honoured. It begs the global question: if state leaders reneged on promises in the past, then how can they be trusted now? Disillusionment about COP26 filled these Glasgow streets just a short distance from the summit venue. Here, an indigenous guardian of the Amazon rainforest from Costa Rica. Are you angry?
Sí, estoy enojado porque lo hemos...
Yes, I'm angry. We've been saying this for years. We're at a point of no return, but governments are just not listening.
And nearby, a mother who works as a clerical assistant.
Our generation and previous generations have created such issues with the world that my children are going to end up inheriting. So if we don't try and sort it out now, we're just going to leave the future children with major problems that they will never be able to overcome.
This aid worker was trying to be optimistic.
We have the answers to this climate crisis. We've got the money we need to support vulnerable communities. We just need our world leaders and the negotiations, the climate summit happening right now, to do it at the speed we need it.
But such optimism, though, was in short supply generally. COP26 is now halfway through, and the pressure on world leaders and their representatives, the climate diplomats, couldn't be greater. The message from the streets here and cities across the globe is quite clear. They must do better. Demonstrators turned out in Australia, where forest fires at the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020 killed 33 people and more than 1 billion wild animals. In South Korea, protesters expressed doubts about whether their government would honour promises to phase out coal-fired power.
I think it would be difficult for South Korea to stop its acts as a climate villain.
Back in Glasgow, some complex negotiations will be underway in the coming days to try to find a solution to this climate crisis. No one in the meeting rooms will need reminding of the huge level of pressure upon them. Andrew Simmons, Al Jazeera, Glasgow.
It's now time for sports news. And in sports news, their names are Michael Olunga, Baghdad BOUNEDJAH and Andre Ayew, and they are all top scorers in the Qatari League. The others are Mali's Cheikh Tidiane Diabate, who has scored 6 goals for Al Gharafa, and Yohan Boli, the Ivorian striker who features for Al Rayyan. While the competition resumes only at the end of December, it is these players that opponents will be most worried about.
Their names are Michael Olunga, Baghdad BOUNEDJAH and Andre Ayew, and they are all top scorers in the Qatari League. While the competition will only resume at the end of December, it is 5 African strikers bringing terror to their opponents in the Gulf States elite football. The ranking is thus completed by Mali's Cheikh Tidiane Diabate, who has 6 goals for Al Gharafa, and Yohan Boli, the Ivorian striker who features for Al Rayyan. Kenyan international Michael Olunga arrived at Al Dohel last January, preceded by a flattering reputation developed in East Asia. Best player and top scorer in Japan, the Harambee star has not struggled to make his mark in the Gulf. 20 goals in the first 6 months and already 12 in only 7 league games at mid-season. Africa Cup of Nations winner with Algeria, Baghdad BOUNEDJAH has been reigning over the Qatari scoring charts for several seasons. Revealed on the African continent with Étoile du Sahel, the Fennec joined our side 6 years ago. In Qatar Stars League, BOUNEDJAH boasts of 128 goals in 108 matches. 2 seasons ago, his 39 goals in a single season had allowed him to win the title of top scorer. Ghana's captain AYEW has already bagged 7 goals in 9 games for our side, despite only completing his move to Qatar at the end of July.
To end Camnet TV main news, we take a look at the headlines once again. President Hakainde Hichilema condemned for calling previous governments a clique of thieves. 2 houses gutted due to suspected electrical fault in Lusaka. President HH calls for unity. In international news, Mali political parties demand junta respect transition schedule. And in sports news, OLUNGA, BOUNEDJAH and AYEW, the African trio dominating the Qatari League. We now look at the Camnet verse for the day, coming from Psalms 119 verse 97. How I love your instruction. It is my meditation all day long. Your word is a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. I have solemnly sworn to keep your righteous judgments. I am severely afflicted. Lord, give me life through your word. Thank you for watching Camnet TV News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Bye-bye.